Sigiriya rises from the central plains of Sri Lanka like a stone titan, a geological anomaly that defies the surrounding flatlands. This massive column of rock, towering nearly 200 meters high, is more than just a fortress. It is a frozen moment of immense ambition and terrifying paranoia. For centuries, travelers, archaeologists, and historians have gazed up at its vertical walls, asking the same question: why build a palace here, in a place that seems to reject human habitation? The answer lies not just in the engineering prowess of the 5th century, but in a violent family drama that rivals any Shakespearean tragedy. This was not merely a pleasure garden, nor was it solely a military bunker. It was Alakamanda, a desperate attempt to recreate the mythical city of the gods on Earth. But unlike the gods, the creator of this marvel was a mortal man running out of time. Today, we peel back the layers of tourism and myth to reveal the verified history of the Lion Rock. We will explore the hydraulic systems that still function after 1,500 years, decode the chemistry of the world-famous frescoes, and walk the steps of a king who chose to live in the clouds rather than face his sins on the ground. To understand the rock, we must understand the madness of the man who crowned it, King Kashyapa. The Kulavamsa, the ancient chronicle of Sri Lankan kings, paints a grim portrait of the events around 477 AD. Kashyapa was the eldest son of King Datusena, the liberator who had saved the island from Pandyan invaders. However, in the rigid hierarchy of the ancient court, biology was not enough. Kashyapa was born to a non-royal consort, a Palana, while his younger half-brother, Moggallana, was the son of the royal queen. By the laws of succession, the younger brother was the rightful heir. Driven by the fear of losing his birthright and perhaps manipulated by court intrigue, Kashyapa staged a violent coup. He seized the throne and imprisoned his father. The Chronicles narrate a chilling scene where Kashyapa demands to know where the royal treasures are hidden. King Datusena, a man who had built great irrigation tanks to feed his people, walked into the Kalawewa tank, took a handful of water, and said, "This, my friends, is my only treasure." Enraged and unsatisfied, Kashyapa ordered his father's execution. The text is specific and horrifying. Datusena was stripped naked, bound in chains, and walled up alive within a clay wall. While some modern historians argue this might be a metaphor for imprisonment, the Chronicle explicitly frames it as karmic retribution. With his father dead and the throne seized, Kashyapa turned his eyes to his brother. Moggallana, fearing a similar fate, fled to South India, vowing to return with an army. Kashyapa was now king, but he was a king waiting for the axe to fall. The old capital of Anuradhapura, located on flat open ground, felt like a trap. He needed a sanctuary. He needed a weapon. And so, he looked to the massive gneiss rock standing in the wilderness, Sigiriya. Before one even reaches the ascent, they must pass through one of the most sophisticated hydraulic systems of the ancient world. The water gardens of Sigiriya are a masterclass in symmetry and fluid mechanics, debunking the idea that ancient technology was primitive. This area is divided into 3 distinct sections, but the microhydraulics here are the true marvel. During the rainy season, visitors today are often shocked to see fountains springing to life, shooting water nearly 12 inches into the air. These are not powered by modern pumps or electricity. They are operating exactly as they were designed in the 5th century. The engineers of Sigiriya utilize the Pasada principle of gravity and pressure. Water is channeled from the Sigiri Mahawewa tank, located at a higher elevation south of the rock. It flows through underground terracotta conduits. As these pipes approach the fountains, the engineers narrowed the diameter of the conduits. Following Bernoulli's principle, this constriction forces the water to accelerate, building pressure until it bursts through the perforated limestone plates at the surface. It is a zero-energy machine that has outlasted the kingdom that built it. But the engineering goes beyond just aesthetics. Beneath the surface gardens lies a complex drainage system designed to handle the monsoon rains. The gardens are not just beautiful, they are a flood control mechanism for the fortress above. Every channel, every pool, and every brick was placed with mathematical precision to ensure that the palace in the sky remained sustainable. Speaking of ancient engineering, it's incredible to think these gravity-fed fountains still work after 1,500 years. If we built a modern city today, do you think any of our infrastructure would still be functioning in the year 3,500? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Ascending further, we encounter a feature that transforms the rock from a fortress into a gallery of voices. This is the Katbitha, or the Mirror Wall. Originally, this wall stretched for hundreds of meters, shielding the gallery along the rock face. In the 5th century, it was a blinding white ribbon. The plaster was a unique mixture of fine lime, egg white, and beeswax, polished so incessantly that the king could reportedly see his reflection as he walked past. However, the true value of the mirror wall is not in its shine, but in what is scratched upon it. It serves as the world's oldest comments section. Between the 6th and 13th centuries, long after Kashyapa's death, visitors from all over the island climbed Sigiriya to see the abandoned palace. They left over 1,500 verses of graffiti, which have been painstakingly deciphered by archaeologists, like Dr. Sanarath Paranavitna. These writings destroy the modern notion of tourism. We tend to think of sightseeing as a recent invention, but these scribbles prove that people a millennium ago were just like us. They came, they saw, and they left reviews. One inscription from the 8th century, written by a man named Budal, reads, "I am Budal. I saw the damsels on the rock face. Heavy hearts they have." Another visitor, perhaps disappointed by the climb, wrote a bit of snarky poetry. "The ladies who wear golden chains on their breasts beckon to me. But now that I have seen the resplendent ladies, heaven has lost its appeal for me." These voices bridge the gap of time, showing us metalworkers, soldiers, and monks who stood exactly where we stand, marveling at the same sights. Hovering halfway up the sheer rock face are the enigmatic paintings that have captivated visitors for 15 centuries. These are the Sigiriya frescoes. Originally, the entire western face of the rock, an area nearly 140 meters long and 40 meters high, was covered in these paintings. It would have been a massive tapestry of color visible for miles around, a billboard of royal power. Today, only about 22 figures remain in a sheltered pocket. The subjects are the apsaras, celestial nymphs, depicted with golden skin, ample bosoms, and elaborate jewelry. For years, debates raged about who these women were. Were they King Kashyapa's concubines? Or were they the Vijulatha, the lightning princesses of the clouds? The academic consensus, led by experts like Sanaki Bandaranayake, points to the latter. The anatomy of the figures supports this. Their torsos twist in impossible angles, and their fingers are flexible and boneless, traits associated with divine beings rather than mortal women. The chemistry of these paintings is equally fascinating and distinct from other ancient sites. Unlike the famous frescoes of the Ajanta caves in India, which used the lapis lazuli stone to create vibrant blues, the artists of Sigiriya had no blue pigment. Extensive chemical analysis has found traces of red ochre, yellow ochre, and green earth, glauconite. But the blue tones visible in some photographs are actually an optical illusion caused by the graying of the plaster and the interaction of ancient varnishes over time. Furthermore, recent studies verify that these are painted using the fresco secco technique. This means they were painted onto dry plaster, not wet. The artisans applied a ground layer of clay reinforced with paddy husks, followed by a lime sand finish, and finally, a smooth lime wash to hold the paint. This technique allowed for greater detail and is the primary reason they have survived the harsh tropical weather for so long. At the northern plateau, the final ascent begins, and it was here that Kashyapa made his boldest statement of power. This is the Lion Gate, or Simhagiri, the feature that gave the rock its name. Today, we are met by two colossal paws, each standing 3 meters high, flanking the staircase. They are impressive, but they are just the remnants of something much more terrifying. Archaeological reconstructions and notches in the rock face indicate that originally, a massive brick and plaster lion sat here in a crouching position. The staircase didn't just go up the rock, it went through the lion. Visitors and diplomats would have had to walk into the open, gaping mouth of the beast, down its throat, to reach the king. This was architectural theater designed for psychological warfare. Standing at the base of the paws, looking up at where the head once towered, you feel small. That was the point. Kashyapa was telling his subjects and his enemies that he had tamed nature itself. He had turned the mountain into a predator, and he was the master who lived above it. But the defenses here were not just psychological. The boulder garden at the base of the rock contains evidence of a more brutal defense strategy. Massive rocks are perched precariously on tiny stone supports. These were not natural formations. They were booby traps. In the event of an invasion, soldiers could lever these boulders off their supports, sending them crashing down to crush the approaching army. Reaching the top, at nearly 200 meters above the jungle floor, we find the ruins of the Sky Palace itself. The summit covers roughly 1.6 hectares, and contrary to popular belief, this was not just a military lookout, it was a fully functioning royal residence. The layout is terraced, utilizing every inch of the uneven rock surface. We find foundations of palace buildings, gardens, and, most crucially, a massive pool cut directly into the solid granite. This brings us to the second great hydraulic myth of Sigiriya. For decades, guides claimed that water was pumped up to the summit using a complex system of windmills or hydraulic pressure. However, verified archaeological data proves there were no pumps. The summit relied entirely on rainwater harvesting. The rock face is cut with subtle gradients and drains that funneled every drop of monsoon rain into the rock-cut cisterns. These pools were sky catchers, designed to sustain the king and his court through the dry season. It is a testament to the pragmatism that underpinned the grandeur. Kashyapa knew that without water, his fortress was a tomb. From this height, the king could see for miles. He could see the movements of troops, the changing of the seasons, and the approach of any threat. It was a place of absolute isolation. One has to wonder, standing in the ruins of his throne room, did he feel like a god? Or did he feel like a prisoner of his own creation? For all its walls, moats, and height, the safety of Sigiriya was an illusion that lasted only 18 years. In 495 AD, the inevitable happened. Moggallana returned from India, leading a massive army of mercenaries. The Kulavamsa records that Kashyapa made a fatal error. Instead of staying within his impregnable fortress, where he could have withstood a siege for months, he descended. Perhaps driven by pride or the belief that his god-king status made him invincible, he rode out on his war elephant to meet his brother on the open plains of the Habarana area. During the heat of the battle, Kashyapa's elephant encountered a hidden swamp. The king turned the beast aside to find firm ground. In the chaos of ancient warfare, signals are everything. His army, seeing the king turn his elephant away from the enemy, mistook the maneuver for a retreat. Panic spread, the lines broke. His soldiers fled, leaving the king isolated and exposed. Realizing that all was lost, and refusing to be captured by the brother he had wronged, Kashyapa drew his dagger. In one final act of defiance, he slashed his own throat, sheathing the blade in his scabbard before he fell dead. Moggallana claimed the throne and arrived at Sigiriya, but he did not live there. He handed the fortress back to the Buddhist monks, returning it to the monastery it had been before Kashyapa's reign. The paintings were ignored, the palace crumbled, and the jungle slowly reclaimed the Lion Rock. Sigiriya stands today not just as a ruin, but as a monument to the fleeting nature of power. It is a story of a son who killed his father to build a paradise, only to die by his own hand at its gates. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the true history of Sigiriya, make sure to like and subscribe to Ancient Chronicles HD. We are dedicated to uncovering the verified history behind the world's greatest myths. Until next time, keep exploring the past